So I need to find a better way of organizing this. And this should speak to the fact that EC through 6 encompasses so much information. You guys are responsible, and here they are, for understanding the art standards, the mathematics standards, the physical education standards, EC through 6, that's early child through 6th grade, all of the standards, knowledge and skills, theoretical basis, specifics about that content area, English language arts and reading, which includes much and many of the STR components, because STR is a super hyper focus on the early portion of language learning, right? A reconfiguration of our language learning as we did it, as far as timeline and focus. Health standards, all of the knowledge and skills related to health. Science standards, all of the knowledge, safety protocols within a science classroom, everything, you have to know it. Music, social studies, and theater. So these are all here. And the way that I suggest is that you tackle them one at a time for study purposes. So I'm going to try to reorganize my playlist here in a way that, I mean, I just don't even know. Maybe I should break it apart and do EC6 art and then just have all that stuff there. And then I can link related videos, because sometimes I link videos that are really important for you to watch, but for a particular content area in E6. So this one here about math manipulatives.
Estos momentos no duran para siempre. Pero
Let's just quiet it for this here, and then we'll just quiet it again. So the one about math manipulatives, because it is important for us to understand.
Allow students to do that. I find that they have a lot of experience.
Let me see
Well,
what
mix and
she's
match
explaining. Oh, chihuahuas.
para siempre.
It's not fair, YouTube.
I have so many commercials for you.
It's my fault. I recently, oh, look right here. It's like, skip it. You want to do without ads? No. So
Really no difference. Now, these can be great tools once we've built these place value concepts and we're moving into operations with whole numbers. So students understand place
operations
value,
with
but
whole
now it's like, okay,
numbers. She talks about specifics that we'll find if we look at our standards, and if we also look at the math TEKS, which is another document that you really have to focus on. So let's say that we're going to do and she was talking about math, and I don't want anyone to be afraid of math. Math is a universal language, but if language is not taught correctly, you can, have a fear of that particular, of utilizing it, or if you feel ignorant in it because you didn't have proper instruction. And that we see that happen with our math students all the time. We need to understand all of the standards and the TEKS that correspond, because they correspond almost like igual. Let me do this for us. Open up the TEKS for mathematics, and we'll just go to 6th grade really quickly, because that's the last level, right?
Yes, Miss Sauceda.
So very important when you go through and you're making your study guide, because you should be looking through each and correlating, like mapping side by side. So let's take out, I'm so bad at this. I'm going to open tab to a new window. That's what I wanted to do. And then now, okay. So looking at them side by side, and we'll just need the front portion of it where it like generally lists. But when you're making your notes, these two documents are where the exam comes from. So you printed out stuff from, which is very good, from Pearson website. Like they take both the TEKS and our standards and they create competencies. And they put those competencies in particular domains, right? Based on the goal or the function, right, for the teacher or the student. It's important for us to have a clear understanding, a working understanding of the TEKS and our standards, to where you'd be able to take a test and say to yourself, oh, this is a number concepts question, or you know what, this is probability and stats for sure. This is probability and stats, and in particular the multiple step probability and stats, where you'd be able to just understand the different goals, processes, and skills. Now, you might not be proficient yourself in all of these skills yet, and that's okay. There are things that you can do in order to become better at them. First and foremost, watching many of those videos where these excellent math teachers, elementary math teachers show how they would show the student to do the particular things, because you're being asked for a level of skill that's not higher than what you're teaching. So they're not asking you to do calculus because you're not going to be teaching calculus. So you won't be tested on that, but you will have to, be proficient with and up to 6th grade mathematics. So 6th grade mathematics, this assessment right here, it is, and where's my little drawing thing? Sorry, I don't know why this is not working for me.
It's okay, Ms. Sauceda. I'm writing my notes and of what you're letting me know to correlate and connect for the study guide.
So this document, which is our TEKS, and you'll see mathematical processes. I'm just going to highlight that one so we can look for it in our standards, in our own standard documents. Remember, TEKS are for the student. Our standard document is for us, but they mirror each other because we are required to be able to know what they need to know before they leave 6th grade, and to be able to do what they need to be able to do, instruct them, support them in those particular areas. And that's what the exam is about. So the TEKS are for the student, our standards are for us, and together they make your exam. This document here, the star, is the assessment of our students in this grade level. It is whether or not the students can do any of these given knowledge and skills, like respond to these knowledge questions and or provide, evidence that they've mastered the skill. So it's a really, really great practice for you when you are trying to see, do I know how and can I do the things that they need to be able to do? So number operations, classify whole numbers, integers, rational numbers using a visual representation such as Venn diagram to describe the relationship between sets of numbers. And you could even go, and so you have to know that. If they have to know and be able to do that, you have to know and be able to do that. So if you can't, you just need to look it up and draw a picture in your notes next to that so that you make it your own. You're making it your own for your brain in the creation of your study document. It's that tangible creation of the neurological pathway with you writing it down and making connections, drawing pictures. So Pinterest is really great for us teachers because teachers utilize it so incredibly much. So let's take a look at it. We need to be able to integers. Did I spell it wrong? Why is that? Why can't I see it? It's not now. Go away. Okay, integers. Why am I spelling it? Am I spelling it wrong? Oh yeah, I am. Integers. Integers, whole numbers. What was the other one? Rational. Let's see what we come up with. So just not, oh, here we are. So this is a really great visual of exactly that class, and it is even sort of using a Venn diagram, if you will. And they need to be able to do that. They need to be able to understand what each of these are, what rational numbers are. Numbers include integers and whole numbers. Integers include whole numbers. And what does that exactly mean? That's not enough. Rational numbers, all rational numbers include any number that can be written as a ratio or a fraction, right? So 1/2 and -1/2 are both, and 1, because 1 you can put over 1, right? So all of those, that's numbers, having them do that. So in your study of it, of your TEKS, you are going to, here it is, number, fraction, classification, and you need to classify like what it is based on, and be able to do that. Extend representations for division to include fraction notation, such as A/B represents same as A divided by B, where B does not equal 0. So we know that to be able to like understand that representation and that the logic behind it. Yes.
I accidentally broke glass over there.
Where?
In the kitchen.
You broke glass? Where was there glass?
The bowl.
Oh, okay. Hold on. One moment.
Sorry. My slipper. I'm sorry.
Oh my Lord, it never ends. Sorry, and I know that I'm videoing and someone will be like, the instructor walked away for a little bit.
It's okay. Don't worry. We
So,
understand.
And there was couple like all over in glass.
Oh my goodness, are they okay? Because that's all that matters, as long as you're okay.
Yeah, no, they're totally fine. They're totally fine. I just had to sweep some stuff up and make sure there wasn't glass, but they're gonna stay away because I need to do a more thorough job in a little bit.
Yes.
So any of the concepts that you need to understand, there are so many educators that have provided examples on how they illustrate it to their students. And so if the fourth graders can understand it, or the fifth graders, certainly we can utilize those same strategies and understand. And because they've added new stuff, like if you watch the videos on math manipulatives, and I don't think this is the particular one, and hopefully, is this the same video?
Normal is broke and scared. Normal sucks.
Now is not the time to be doing
Or
math. The time to be doing math was when we did.
Hey, math friends, if you are in our upper system is all about groupings of 10, is base 10 blocks. Now, once students have the foundation of our number system ingrained in their minds, so they've taken individual cubes and built them into groups of 10 and so forth, that's typically done in lower grades. But once they've grasped that, I love base 10 blocks because you can see the relationship of 10 between each of these pieces. And that is really, really powerful. Now, another reason that
so that visual representation, that little one block is 10 of the 10, and then that 10 grouping, there's 10 of them to make the 100, getting them to really understand visually number sense, right? Creating that map of knowledge and play with numbers. It's just like building a linguistic map with different sort of words. Some people know what the square root of all of the square root things, like the ones that have square roots, like all of them. If I had to work them out, I could probably work them out pretty slowly, but I don't have them memorized. Some people have that language already memorized, and it just helps make their utilizing larger, more complex equations more efficiently. And so that's really what a lot of these manipulatives do. They help illustrate some of these concepts to get the students to be more fluent with their actual math skills and math processes. And I had these, like I was able to use base 10s when I was going through school in the 80s and 90s. And but some of the ones that they have are really cool and that help them understand like fractions and percentages, really cool stuff that, I mean, we just didn't use. That would have been, I feel like I would have been valedictorian. I've said that many times in a video, but I really feel, I mean, I was good at math and I took it very seriously, but I feel like if I had been more fluent and I had had like better illustrations younger, possibly would be even stronger, feel even more confident in my instruction. But our students can feel confident, and they should, because math is a universal language. Everybody can and should practice it and utilize it. We use it so much in our everyday life, and every country it's the same. So universal language for humanity, really. And it's just a matter of having good instruction. Like same thing when you're learning a second language, which, math sort of is a little bit. You have to have proficient instruction and have like really targeted, systematic, focused instruction that's based on brain knowledge, like how our brain works. And we know we get illustrations, and if we have tangible things and we can like visualize and create, and the more practice and repetition, that strengths persist in our classrooms.
That I love base 10 blocks is because they are extremely flexible. They're flexible in several different ways. One, obviously you can change the value of each of these to show that relationship of 10. So typically this represents 1, this represents 10, and this represents 100. But I could change the value of that and say that this represents 1,000 and ask students, if this represents 1,000, well, what does this represent? Well, they'll figure out that 10 of these would be 10,000. So they're just really flexible. Now, they can also be used for decimals, which we are going to get to in just a bit. Now, a lot of 4th and 5th grade math teachers will ask me about place value discs and what my thoughts are on them, if we should use them, if they are better than base 10 blocks because they're easier to manage, they're not as loud because they're foam, all these questions. And here is my response to that. Place value discs, so these little chips right here, place value chips, whatever you want to call them, they are a great tool for 4th and 5th grade math classrooms, but I would not say they are a must-have. And here's why. I would never use these to introduce these place value concepts to students because they are very abstract. Really, what's the difference between seeing a chip that says 10,000 on it and seeing 10,000 on a piece of paper?
Exactly.
There's really no difference. Now, these can be great tools once we've built these place value concepts.
Exactly. Once we, because remember the students, if we think about what we understand from pedagogy, 4th and 5th graders cognitively are not outside already in the abstract lane. And we're trying to teach concepts that do demand, understanding of things in some abstract ways, but they're not there all the way. And so just having, 10,000 on a chip, it's going to be the same as having it on a piece of paper. If I cut out a construction paper, it doesn't really illustrate the size, the, flexibility of those tangible items, just the making of the different blocks to fit and illustrate, if I take 10 of these and I line them up, it's going to make that. If I take, 10 of these and line them up, it's going to make one of this. And that illustrates in a way much better than those, place value chips do. But that doesn't mean that you can't use these to help once they become proficient. Once this abstract knowledge has been illustrated, because that's what she's doing. She's illustrating this abstract concept to students who have not reached the human growth and development peak so that they're able to think abstractly. And that's why these are such really good lessons even for adults. I was looking through these and I think I've even become better at fractions because of watching these videos, because the things that they do and they utilize to illustrate the concepts and skills for math students is really very helpful. I'm so grateful to these. I haven't even liked this one and I put it there. Really liked this video and many of her videos, and I should just collect her videos in a thing for people to go watch. But that
I need to watch your videos too, because I'm very bad at math. And it's kind of like, now I understand, when she was explaining, I was like, I need to watch her videos so I can understand better.
Absolutely. You are not bad at math. You just had bad instruction. Listen, when did you go to elementary? What years were you in the elementary public school system?
I'm 35. So I was like the 90s per se, like mid 90s.
Right, 90s. A lot of things have changed. Let me tell you, I started teaching in 2003 and 2004. That was my first year teaching. Okay. So things are vastly different from when I started teaching. Like we didn't even have the internet. There wasn't email yet. Not really. There was email between, we didn't email parents. Parents didn't have emails, especially in the colonias. And I taught, predominantly colonia.
Yeah, and it's like, sorry to interrupt, Miss Sauceda, but you're saying something so true. It's kind of like there's so many things out there that they were available, but if it depended on your economic status, if you don't, if you were from like the lower class, you don't have access to so many things, and you're kind of like, that's why everything's so new now. But It's like everything has always been there. And then of course where I lived, it was like mid class to poor, it was just an okay area, right? But I did notice when I started, I guess going to junior high and everything, right, so on and so forth, people that I started meeting, they were like, oh, we used to do this at our school. And I was like, at my school, we never did this and we never did that. But then again, of course, they come from an area a little bit, higher middle class and so on and so forth. So I was like, they had more access to so many things. And it's like, it's a bummer that because of your, where you live, you're limited to some stuff.
Yes, it's geographic, socioeconomic limitations. There's so many limitations. I mean, we don't even think about it, but my family, we took a trip to New Mexico and everything is beautiful, even coming out of the crappy Walmart, you know, it's, you walk
That's
outside and it's like, oh, the angels are singing
wow.
and there's this mountain, it's snow capped, it's beautiful. It's very hard to be depressed there, you know, even if you are.
Wow, that's
There's
nice.
just, exactly. So that in itself is just a geographic benefit that people in the valley, I'm sorry, just don't get. Like there's no euphoric feeling coming out of any Walmart that I've ever been to in any location in Texas, period. So and then add the socioeconomic aspect to it. And not only does the school suffer, not only but the parents are struggling, the students therefore struggle in their I mean, I've seen it in their social emotional growth and development, not as a means of neglect, but just as a sheer, like, their parents are part of the working poor. They work 2 jobs, 3 jobs, and so they're not there practicing language and giving, you know, my kids all will have oral language proficiency, but all I ever did on my free time, which was a lot because I went to school and they were in a different, you know, setting, but I talked to them all the time. A lot of kids don't have that. So they come to us with low oral language proficiency just out of survival needs, you know, and so we have that whole array in the classroom. And as I was telling you in the beginning, I hope you got the sense that you have a lot, and all teachers, period, but especially EC through 6, our elementary teachers, the exam that they have to pass is a lot. And I bet you there's not one lay person or doctor, you know, who can pass all of the sections and know
Yeah,
all
you
of
have
it.
to be like extremely like a genius per se. And it's so sad that they ask so much and then but they don't really teach you. Like I've always, one thing that I've learned from you and that I do, that I always constantly remind myself, whenever you had said about like the waiting time with the kids, the
Right,
communication, I built that with my little ones because I teach pre-K 4. So
right,
I allow them to talk. I allow them to express themselves. And I tell them, you know, it's okay. Like whenever I make a mistake, I'm the type of person that I do not want to embed in them like perfection or you have to know everything.
no,
No, I'm like, everybody learns different. Everybody, you know, sometimes you can learn something fast, something slow, but you're still learning, right? And it's like I allow them to express their feelings or emotions because the school that I teach at, it's a low socioeconomical, you know, school,
right,
and it's like, and it's very limited. I guess, you know, the person in charge doesn't really make, you know, the effort, but I'm not going to go into that. That's a whole different thing, right?
right,
Um, but it's kind of like I've always remembered what you said. Allow them to talk. Allow them to have communication. Allow them to have a voice. And other teachers from like the upper grades are like, "Oh, your kiddos are so talkative." And I was like, I allow them. Of course, I know that they sometimes they talk from like their elbows and everything, right? That I'm like, guys, just quiet for a minute, please.
uh-huh,
But I allow them to express themselves, and I tell them, you have a voice. You have a say so to say yes or no.
yeah,
And of course, you know, I try my best because I'm like, if I allow them to do that, I know they're going to get excited to come to class, you know, make it a nice environment for them and so on and so forth. So far my kids are like the little chatterboxes, but I'm like, it's okay. As long as they build
yeah.
their communication and, you know, their oral language, like you said, it's all that matters for me.
Absolutely. They need to be practicing talking about math, practice talking about reading, practice talking about social studies, science, practice talking. A quiet classroom is not really a classroom that's learning. Maybe they're taking an assessment or I don't know, but it's just there's no active, for sure, language learning is not going on at all in any way, shape, or form. And so, I
You're
mean, that's something that I struggled with a lot. And I studied, my bachelor's degree is in English, and then I have a master's degree in English. And I wrote my master's thesis. It's called My Space, Right Space, like writing, right space.
uh-huh. Wow.
Because my students, like I told you, it was very different when I started teaching. So I got to see like the implementation of the internet on schools going from 0 to like 100 and having actual teachers, you know, almost want to retire over it. Like, we don't want to have to answer emails from parents, but at some, you know, in the high school and at some point, you know, around 2008 for sure, email was way more common. Everybody had it. You know, everybody, even like even if it wasn't for work, you had a personal email because you wanted to sign up for things. And so more and more people had email addresses, and teachers had to send weekly, like newsletters and send them and send different stuff out, and there was a lot of resistance. And then, oh my God, then came cell phones, and everybody was like, they shouldn't use them, they're lock
You're
them
you're
up.
totally right, Miss Sauceda. It's like, sorry to interrupt, but it's like when you're talking about emails, I remember I graduated 2005.
Uh-huh.
Everything was always sent like on a note and so on and so forth. And it's
Uh-huh.
kind of like, now with the test, right? I know one of the questions, and it's like I answer, oh no, like paper, but it's like, no, it's supposed to be like, it's email, like, because it's like everything communication is by email. But because I'm remembering like my old days, I'm
Right,
like, oh, it's a little note or a phone call, right? Of course, you still do phone calls and notes, but the majority of the thing is through email
right. It's
because it's like you
electronic,
said, it's
right?
more accessible.
Exactly. Yeah. And then there's apps that can do like the whole class, all at once. And so I have really witnessed a lot of change. And so I know for a fact, even for sure, the way that we instruct ELLs is totally different than when I started teaching. I mean, for sure there were supports in classroom, but there was a lot of ESL teachers that were like, no Spanish and no Spanish. And you can't do that. It was completely antithetical to anything I had learned in linguistics and language learning, cutting out someone's culture and thinking and language, their tongue, and then thinking somehow that it's just going to sprout into the one. No, we need to use it as a bridge. Everything they come with, their language is a resource and a tool that we need to help investigate, find connections that we can make. Their prior knowledge, their first language is a lasso with which they can use to understand new concepts, right? Build strengths, build connections, create visuals, much like these manipulatives in their brain, utilizing things from their own, culture and their own life. It's also demoralizing and dehumanizing to like make someone feel like a part of them is wrong, like their language. That's such a big part of who you are, your ability to speak in language, and just to be shut up like that. It needs to happen all the time, like literally all the time, in the early 2000s. And I'm glad it's changed. And things still need to change. They're still not where they need to be, but we've come a long way. And there's a lot of really good teachers, amazing, excellent teachers that are resources, and so whenever you're on a campus, and sometimes there's, if you're on a campus and you've got a lot of people who possibly need to retire, then maybe because we still have people that are wanting to be old school, like silent classrooms, quiet is best. A lot of math teachers that just want to hear nothing. And sure, it doesn't have to be all loud and crazy, but you certainly want to have them in groups, talking to each other, doing math, and teach them how to whisper, like there's nothing
Exactly.
wrong with teaching them how to speak in a room with a lot of people quietly. Everybody
But
has
but Miss Sauceda, it's a lot of that, like where I'm at, there's a lot of teachers who have been teaching for like 20 something years, 30
Right,
something years, like
right.
a long time. And they expect that. They're like, oh no, they can't be so loud. And I'm like, but we have to allow them to express themselves,
Right.
and there's people that make teaching like such a horrible thing. I was like, I come from a different background, of my work line and everything. And I was like, I work with adults the majority of my life. I just started teaching. I was like, I don't regret it one bit. Yes, of course, there's times that I'm like, guys, please, especially when we're going on break, they were
Right.
just loud, but it's understandable. They're excited because it's like this and that and so on and so forth, right? But it's like, it's so rewarding. Just think it's so rewarding. I'm just kind of like, we need to change our mentality and be like, every job has their difficulties, but teaching, it's like so rewarding.
It really is.
Like when
It's
they learn something, because I have one of my little ones, he's a very slow learner, but he's catching on. So it's kind of like anything that he learns, I make a big fuzz. I'm like, yeah, you did it. And all my kids are like, yay, he did it. And we're like, oh, like
see, and
it's like,
everybody
and he
gets
gets all
excited.
excited. And I'm like, I like to see that, because if he gets excited, that means, that he's being appreciated for learning at least one
Right.
letter, one sound.
Absolutely. And the thing is they need that building of confidence. Everybody else needs to know how to help each other and build a community and not make fun of someone just because they're not on your level yet. And I think that's a lot. There's so much competition. These kids are in these like select sports teams and like, I have to be better than the other one, blah, blah, blah. Everybody learns differently. And that's a great lesson, or illustration rather, that you're doing the right things in your class if the other classmates are cheering for him and he's feeling excited. And what you were talking about with mistakes, with reference to mistakes, especially in math, is getting them to understand that like mistakes are part of the recipe, like to learning math. There's nobody that learns a new concept or skill that just out the gate that is going to be an expert. They're gonna make a mistake in one of the steps, in one of the processes that gets a little tricky remembering, because there's rules, right? You have to remember to change signs when you go to the other side of the equation. And so once you're in, I mean, that's more advanced, but still there's rules, there's steps, and you're going to make mistakes, and mistakes make the magic. That's where the mistakes, when you make them and then you realize, oh, this is what I did. I didn't change my sign when I went to the other side of the equation. Now I'll remember it forever and I'm not going to do that anymore. And so mistakes make the magic in the brain. Your brain doesn't like to be wrong. Hello, does it not feel nice to be wrong? No, and your brain is you. Your brain doesn't like to be wrong. You make a mistake, you learn what it was made, and then your brain remembers it because it's doing the hard work for you. And so mistakes are magic. We don't laugh at mistakes. In fact, when somebody makes a mistake and says, oh, I did this, I bet you a lot of other people probably did that too, or thought about doing that and didn't. And so all of it is a learning opportunity and makes us stronger. And building that like mistakes or magic mentality is a good idea for your students, because then they're more willing to try and understand that there's no shame in getting a question wrong. We'll just figure it out. You know, my daughter came in tears, my first grader, that she's not good at math because she didn't do well on a certain, like, I don't know, assessment or portion that they were looking at. And I said, Mama, it's fine. And we'll work on it. And I had to have the whole conversation I just had right now about how mistakes are important, and math is a universal language, and different parts of math learning are more challenging for different people. Everybody's different. Like, is everybody good at art? Is everybody good at music? No, everybody's brain is different and likes different things and learns in different ways. And so not everybody can do it, just needs a little bit of time and a different strategy for different people. And that's no big deal. So now she's over it and understands that it was over the bump, but she was feeling, pretty bad, but it's because all of her brothers and sisters are at the age. I mean, her oldest sister's a senior and like took the highest math level for her high school, and then took like a stats class in college, her senior year. And so her sister that's in second grade loves math and likes math problems for fun. And so when she's struggling, she feels like, the odd girl out.
Just feels
but-
the pressure, but she's doing good. Just let her know she's doing good.
Yeah, she's doing good. She's doing good, and she has me as her personal cheerleader. So this is
that's
sixth
the
grade
best.
math. Oh, here, this is what I was talking about, the distributive property. So it wasn't above the level.
Okay.
For sixth grade. So there's all these great videos, and these are here in EC6, and there's actually more math videos in the math 4 through 8, which there's a lot of overlap there, the 4th, 5th, and 6th. But here, the distributive property, reviewing of all of the good stuff, because at the end of the day, I'm going to want you for the math. And I think you should probably start with the math first. Start with what scares you the most and really just dive into it and collect.
And I don't know, but it was just
really, and you can do it however you want. You can do just a document breakdown of the standards and TEKS, or a PowerPoint, like, putting the two together with a visual of what that is on each slide. I had a student do that once and then they passed, but because they worked so hard on that study guide, there's no way that they were not going to pass,
Yes.
And so there's different things that you can do. I don't care how you do it, however works to resonate with your brain best visually. Making
I'm a very visual learner, so
I don't think I have
all of this that you're showing me and
but
everything,
she
I
did
think it's
really
gonna help a
detailed,
lot.
but it was all handwritten. And she drew the stuff out or whatever, and just took a big screenshot of all her pages laid out. It looked really cool and very illustrated. Once you do that, the deep dive of your TEKS and your standards, I want for you to take, you should know the what is it? Brain just went blank. You should know the formulas and how to utilize them, right? The area. Oh, okay. So it's another core subjects one that I'm going to start. So I'm going to send you the Calendly link. Actually, let me send it to you right now. So you can just jump on that one and we'll continue right where we left off. If you want to stay longer.
Yes, yes, perfect. I will. I thought I had you, like, I put the little thing on mute, so I was like responding to you, but I was like, oh, she's not listening to what I'm saying. But yes, please.
Just do this business, I guess. Copy. And I'm gonna paste it for you.
Okay.
Actually, you know what? Just all right. So, yeah. So want to reconnect. I'm gonna just jump off and reconnect on this other link. I don't know why it's breaking them apart. It's incredibly annoying. Because it's
It's
supposed
okay.
to be one class for all core, like in one big piece, but it breaks it into 30 minutes. I
Okay.
need to play around
Well.
with the settings, but I'll see you on the other one.
Okay, yes. Let me log in. Thank you. See you in a bit.
Sylvia,
Yes, I'll be there. Let me just I'll jump in.
are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?